Hi there, everybody. I wanted to talk about paper number 2, as well as some other things that are coming up, and anything general about your paper that I noticed. That's why I'm doing this little lecture today. I did finish reading all of your rough drafts for your research paper, and you have a grade on that. You should, if you have not, go back and read my comments on the rough draft because I spent a lot of time making comments, reading them, and thinking what I could do to help you improve. I talked about the incorporation of your research as well as your thesis sentence and the type of analysis that you're doing, as well as citation. So I have a list of some of the things I noticed. Make sure that when you do incorporate research, it's not all just in one body paragraph. It needs to be stretched throughout the entire paper. That does not mean every single paragraph needs to have a piece of research, but I would say most paragraphs do. And therefore, I see as I'm reading your paper that you understand the idea of research as supporting your idea and supporting your thesis and topic sentences throughout the entire paper, rather than just all pushed together in one space in your paper. Speaking of the incorporation of research, I want you to think about the acronym ICE, ICE. I actually talked about that acronym in one of the PowerPoints. I think it's the PowerPoint called Incorporating Research into Your Paper. I'll talk about all of those notes in a minute. But ICE refers to Introduction, Cite, Explain. And that ICE acronym can be utilized and should be utilized for all quotes, not just research. But it is important for research because you'll need a signal phrase to introduce the quote, so you're just not sticking it in the middle of the paper or the paragraph with no reason. Then you'll want to cite it, of course, and I've shown you in the PowerPoint the parenthetical citation method for the MLA format. And then, of course, you'll want to explain it, so you never leave us dangling with your quote. Another thing I noticed about quotes, make sure that the quotes you choose are ones that actually support your point. And if you're reading an article and you don't understand a certain quote, don't use it. If you're having trouble understanding the article itself, don't use it. So I have noticed occasionally the quotes just don't fit what you're trying to say. Let's see. One other thing about research, sort out what is quoted and what is your own analysis. So, of course, at the end of every direct quote, word for word, you have to put either a parenthetical citation, or if you have the name of the author in the signal phrase, you don't need one. However, if you have a set of paraphrases or quotes that are several sentences long, you can put the citation at the end of those several sentences, rather than at the end of every single sentence in a row. There are occasional times where you might have an entire short paragraph. I wouldn't say a long paragraph, but perhaps a short paragraph about the biography of one of your authors with specific biographical information. And if you cite the entire paragraph, then you just put the parentheses at the end of that paragraph. So I want to make sure as I'm reading that I can sort out where your ideas are versus where the source's ideas are. Be sure you read carefully the citation and plagiarism PowerPoint, because that gives you all of the information on the types of plagiarism there are, that there is a thing called accidental plagiarism. You may not think that you're doing it. You may think you're citing properly and you're really not. If you put quotation marks and you don't have a citation, that's plagiarized. If you do that in reverse and you have the citation but no quotation marks, that's plagiarized too. So make sure you're very cognizant of how you're citing and very careful. I did mention if I noticed anything that looked like plagiarism at all in your rough draft. You will have a percentage of directly quoted material. Of course you will, because the Turnitin finds quotes, just like it did for A Raisin in the Sun. It will find many of the quotes from your research as well. That percentage should not be greater than 25%. So I also mentioned that in your individual papers as well. If, at this point, since I have read and commented on your paper, you can actually download it. And if you look on the right bar of the paper when you open it, there's a little arrow on the right bar at the bottom, and you can download what's called the current view. That current view is the actual view that you're looking at with my comments. Then you'll have all my comments. That way you can resubmit the paper if you want to, once it's finally at its final stage and you want to see what the percentage of direct quotes is with your 1,500 words. So that's certainly a possibility if you want to do that. And I believe the program allows you to do that. I think it allows you to submit 3 separate times. So if it doesn't and you're trying to do it in the next several days, let me know. Speaking of submissions, nobody last time from any of my 1302 classes that I can recall, maybe there was one, I just don't remember, used the tutoring at TCC for an extra 5 points. This would be a great paper to do that since it is your research paper. So if when you open My TCCD on the left bar, you click tutoring at TCC, you just follow the directions to submit your paper online to get tutoring from one of the Writing Center tutors. And when you send me proof that you have done that, I'll give you 5 extra points on your research paper. So that's a possibility and something that would be wonderful for you to do. Let's see what else I have. Play title, if you're citing A Raisin in the Sun, remember the word A at the beginning. It is in italics. Short story titles are in quotation marks. So that is the way it should be all the way through. Let me talk about in-text citation matching with your works cited page. And that is one thing I do when I first read your paper. So the very first thing I'll do is I'll look at your works cited page, I'll scroll to the end, and I'll see that you have 6 sources. You need the 2 stories and 4 secondary sources, all in alphabetical order. Read my works cited page for more PowerPoint for more information on that. Then I look through the paper and make sure all 6 of those sources are actually cited in the paper. So you have to match the work cited to what's cited in the paper. How do you match that exactly? You do that by making sure the first word of your works cited entry is the same as the word that's in parentheses in the paper or in the signal phrase. So I posted in week 9 a sample student research paper. And that sample research paper is an A quality paper. It's not perfect, but it was good enough to receive an A grade. It is a student of mine who wrote that paper a year or 2 ago. And so that paper, in terms of works cited, shows the 6 works cited, and you can go back and match the first word of that work cited, whether it's the author or the first word of the title, with what's in the paper itself. So those 6 sources must appear in the paper. I I just wanted to talk about that a little bit and make sure that as you're revising and as you're tweaking some of the final things of your paper toward the end of the process, that you're counting those sources and putting them in correctly. You are allowed to have more than 4 secondary sources. You can have more than 4 pieces of research. Don't forget in your Works Cited page that it is alphabetized the entire thing, including your 2 stories, all as one, by the author's last name or the title. So those are the things I've noticed in your research paper. Let me move forward into our final unit of the semester, and that is Unit 3 on poetry. And I've already posted 2 things in week 9. One of them is the PowerPoint on reading and understanding poetry. And the second one, which I am about to post, or has been posted already, is a detailed explication of the first poem on our syllabus called My Papa's Waltz. And it is a narrative video PowerPoint on YouTube, but it goes very specifically and explicitly through the poem My Papa's Waltz. And I, of course, talk more about that in the narrative itself in the PowerPoint. That is our next unit. We did start it officially this week, although I know you're working on your research paper, so I'm not going to post another poem this week. I'll catch up with posting all the poems next week, starting on Monday, and we'll catch up with the syllabus. Your paper is due on Wednesday of this coming week, so the 28th at 11:59. That gives you this weekend and several days into next week to continue working on and revising the paper. If you would like to talk with me about your paper, you may come to my office hours Monday or Wednesday and talk with me verbally. You can always email me and ask me questions about the paper as well. And one final thing I'd like to mention, I am going to drop 1 daily grade at the end of the semester. And in fact, if you have a 0 right now, I will take the 0 off and just leave a blank space there. So anyone who doesn't have a 0, I don't encourage you to get a 0 on anything, but at the end of the semester, I'll drop a 0 if you happen to have one, or your lowest daily grade out of all of the daily grades that we've had. So anyway, I just wanted to mention that in case you see that all of a sudden you have a blank in the grade book. I dropped that 0 out. All right, I think I've covered everything I wanted to about paper 2, paper on the next poetry unit, some of the things going on in the syllabus, when the paper is due next week, and other things I noticed, and just reminding you that you should go back and read my comments in depth. Okay, everyone, have a great weekend. Bye-bye.